Michael Popok, welcome back to Mea Culpa. Great to have you. As you know, the hour goes by way too fast. A million questions for you. Gonna jump right in it. Okay, so let's start where the country right now is fixated. When you look at the so-called Epstein email release, 23,000 sent to the House Oversight Committee. Hundreds and hundreds more of internal communication between Epstein, his pilots, his schedulers, friends, his lawyers, you name it. Lots of people. Does this strike you as legitimate transparency? Or is the Trump White House losing its grip on a file that they're trying so desperate to control?
Legitimate transparent. Let me just map it out. Legitimate transparency would be to take the entirety of what Kash Patel's FBI reviewed in March, looking for Donald Trump's name, the entirety of what they delivered to Pam Bondi, what Pam Bondi briefed Trump on in May, and deliver that to the American people with a site that they can go on and read for themselves with the survivor victim names redacted, but not Donald Trump's, and let them be the judge of it. I'll tell you what's not transparency. What's not transparency is to go and put Lauren Boebert in the Situation Room and abuse other women who have been victims of sexual abuse again, to try to convince them to vote no on the discharge petition or on the eventual bill at the House floor next month to release the Epstein files. That's not transparency, as Carolyn Levitt likes to say. That's Orwellian. It's the opposite. Now, the reason we're getting these other documents, including a data dump, which I think Trump was supposed to help Trump, but actually some of the things that are in the data dump are worse than the 3 emails that came out earlier in the week in terms of Donald Trump's involvement with things. I don't know how this helps him, any of it, but the data dump itself, combined with new reporting by David Schuster that came out in the last 48 to 72 hours, that there was a briefing between the Department of Justice and right-wing members of the House in which they were told, according to the reporting, that the files that are under wraps with Donald Trump are worse for Donald Trump than first suspected. And now we're seeing, if you can't get them from the pile, then you got to go to the source. And the source is the Epstein estate and their hard drives and their emails and their email boxes that still exist. And look what's come out just in the last 72 hours. This scandal and Donald Trump's involvement in it has roared back to life. It's been reignited.
Except the problem is the 23,000 emails that were given over by the Epstein estate, those are not documents that are included, or at least we don't believe so, in the file that's under the control of Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. My understanding is that these are separate, that these are unique documents that were not part of it. Again,
how do we know?
The whole problem. We just don't know.
How do we know? I mean, the mound of documents, which took up a tractor trailer filled and took a team of FBI staff round the clock in 12-hour shifts to review and to find Donald Trump's name in it. That, when we refer to the Epstein files, we refer to the documents that have been, we assume, obtained by the FBI who did the investigations, the subpoenas that were executed, the documents that were obtained, the hard drives. It does not, however, may not include the money following the money, the bank accounts for Epstein, maybe for Donald Trump. And then to totally divert attention, because he knows it's going so badly, your old boss. He knows it's going so badly, Donald Trump. He comes out with Pam Bondi, the FBI should investigate Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn.
J.P. Morgan.
How about you? How about they should, okay, let's make this simple. In a well-functioning democracy that isn't controlled by the most corrupt Department of Justice and FBI in history, led by the felon in chief as the chief legal officer for his own administration. In a normal society, we'd have a special counsel already appointed to be independent from the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate wherever the chips may fall, including the President of the United States. That's exactly what we're not getting and will never get until we get accountability in Washington.
You know, I did a Substack alive. And one of the things that popped into my head while I was doing the live, lots of things pop into my head. And the thing that popped into my head is, you know what I would do? I would actually offer my service alongside whether it be Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche or Marjorie Taylor Greene. No, I would, to act in a bipartisan manner, go through every single document and prepare a report like the Durham report, like a Mueller report, and do it. One thing people would know is that there's no way in the world that every document that's missing will not be accounted for, and that every person who should be held accountable, alive or dead, would be listed in that report. It would be a comprehensive report. It's really the only way at this point in time, Popok, that all America will acknowledge what those files contain, unless, of course, they release them in its entirety, as you said, redacted only to the names of the victims. Other than that, if hypothetically they gave me the files to review, anybody that's MAGA for sure, and many Republicans would say, no, he's got an axe to grind, right? That how do we know what he's writing is true? But if you do it in concert with another person that they believe, that to me is the only way that a proper report could be written.
Look, the reality is we're never going to see these documents unless there's enough votes on the House floor to release them. This president will, when things are going badly for you, you make them go as slowly, badly as possible. And that's what Donald Trump is busy doing right now. He's wasting our time, our resources, because he's wrapped up in a scandal that he thought, look, when you have a rotting body in your closet and you go away for 50 days or 40 days on a vacation, it's still there when you get back. So he got back thinking, hey, did I squelch the Epstein cover-up scandal? No. You didn't. And now that the Oversight Committee, which is bipartisan, starts releasing documents like you spent hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim, it doesn't help you that your press secretary reveals the name of the victim as a defense. It doesn't, even if it was Virginia Joffrey, which I'm not sure it was or it wasn't. It's not a defense to say, oh, we know who the underage girl was that he was in the house with for hours at a time. It's Virginia. That does not help you.
Yeah, Caroline Levitt is no, as we would say, Talmud Chacham, right? She's certainly no genius amongst geniuses. She with her machine gun lips. So let me ask you this, because legally,
that's a line by Donald Trump. That's a line by Donald Trump.
Caroline Machine Gun Lips Levitt. She's got the machine gun. I mean, it's like, what the fuck? So meanwhile, legally and tactically, who do you think actually benefits from this selective leak? Especially the emails referencing Mar-a-Lago visits, flight manifests, and Trump-era DOJ correspondence. And who do you think should be sweating bullets inside of Trump's inner circle?
Look, Trump has been briefed about his name, lousy, all over these files. He was told in May by Pam Bondi what it was. It's so bad that the reporting, and that I don't think this leak was timed. This leak was timed because look at the drumbeat since the government's reopened. You got Ghislaine Maxwell, who has been lobbying for a pardon or a commutation of her sentence as she lives the Beverly Hills hotel lifestyle, apparently in a Texas jail, okay, which is hard to believe. So you got all that going on. David Schuster comes out with his reporting a couple of days before that, when the government was about to reopen, that the people that have been briefed on the files by the DOJ say they are worse for Trump than previously imagined. And then you've got, of course, we always knew that Maxwell lied during her interview, her sworn interview under oath, under an immunity deal to Todd Blanche, when she said, oh, Donald Trump, I think they were barely friends. I don't think they were ever at the house. And then you've got the email from 2011 that's been released in which Epstein says, you know, the dog that doesn't bark, it's Donald Trump. And all those hours he spent with a girl in my house. And Ghislaine Maxwell saying, I was just thinking about that.
You know, the part that bothers me is, look, you know, I have friends since I was 9-10 years old. And if you went into my phone, you'd probably find we have 10, 20,000 emails to each other. You know, some just asking what's going on, others somewhat less appropriate. But there's specificity in all of my emails and my communications. Jeffrey Epstein in these communications writes like a fucking 4-year-old.
That's true.
Right? It's also incredibly cryptic. Okay, let's assume for a second that, and again, because Donald's not CC'd on any of these emails, there are no emails from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein,
No,
Ghislaine
it's
Maxwell,
two
anyone.
people who
Do
never
you know
thought
why?
Wait. It's two people who thought that these would never see the light of day, kibitzing between each other. Okay, go ahead.
Right. But you don't kibitz in cryptic when you're talking about something that's sexual that you never think is going to come out. I mean, none of these emails have any specificity, which bothers me, which is why we need the full unredacted file so that we can get some clarity what it's about. But what I thought was incredibly interesting is the fact that nobody has brought this up. Why are there no emails from Trump to Jeffrey Epstein?
I thought he
or
doesn't
Ghislaine
email.
Maxwell?
I thought he's
Because
not an
he
email.
doesn't even have an email
Right.
address. He doesn't have one. He never had a computer even on his desk.
You've been public about that. He doesn't email.
He doesn't have an email
Right.
address for Roy Cohn taught him early on, never have an email, never email or text anybody. In that way, there's no documentation that could ever be raised by you or against you for what's been sent.
Did he use, were you pre-social media with him? Was he on social media when you were with him?
He was on social media. In fact, I'm the one that helped him start his account on X.
Okay, so he was on X, and
Yeah.
I guess he DM'd.
He didn't really DM people. In fact, what he would do is he would have somebody else send a text to somebody. Only on a rare occasion would he send a DM. So you're not going to get that. But I'm shocked that Jeffrey Epstein was a fucking pervert, right? Ghislaine Maxwell was a fucking degenerate, right? Very cryptic, very non-specific. Two perverts talking to one another are somewhat more specific than just, hey, Donald was with, whoever it might be, for hours at the house.
Well, wait a minute. Let me challenge that. They may be not thinking that these are ever going to see the light of the day, but they certainly don't want to incriminate themselves and say, hey, you just raped a girl, didn't you? They don't write that way. If you look at, remember all the emails that came out, you and I did a piece about it also, all those emails that came out the first data tub, and we went through them. We learned about the spreadsheet for the gifts that Bill Clinton is on and Alan Dershowitz is on, and buy this guy a Lexus and buy this one a watch and all of that. Even then, when they communicated, it was in the shorthand of co-conspirators, lovers, and participants in a child sex trafficking ring. They were never detailed. So this was consistent. It's not like these were out of character for how these two communicate. We saw hundreds of their emails. Even co-conspirators in bank robbers don't talk about, hey, what'd you do with your cut from the Brinks truck? I mean, they don't talk about that.
Agreed, but like where the email says, but Trump told Ghislaine to stop. The question that I keep asking people, stop what? Stop stealing my girls that are working for me. Stop charging shit, on Jeffrey Epstein's account since he doesn't have one, since I tossed him out because he's a creep and a pedophile. Stop what? Stop showing up unannounced. Stop pushing people on my lap. Stop taking photos of me. We don't know what stop was.
Yeah, but I got my own version. So do you.
Well, I understand, but that's our version.
Yeah,
but that doesn't make our version factual.
Maybe not.
It makes it our opinion, but it doesn't make it factual.
It may be, but I'm a trial lawyer, and if I got an email like that and I'm in court, I can make a reasonable inference to a jury without having anybody even involved. I've used plenty of documents where the witnesses didn't want to testify or couldn't remember the document, but you can read it for yourself. And in real time, he's responding. And we've had Michael Wolf on recently on Court of History Legal AF about his emails in particular and what memory it jogged for him. He said on that particular email exchange that this was in response, of course, to Donald Trump saying that he fired the creep. You heard Carolyn Levette say, as soon as Donald Trump knew that he was a pedophile, this is so not good. I know,
so
Trump.
damning.
So damning for Donald Trump. As soon as he knew he was a pedophile and a creep, that he fired him from Mar-a-Lago and canceled his membership. All right, stop right there. First of all, that's not true. He was never, as Epstein said in his own email, I was never a member of Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And so I couldn't have been fired from Mar-a-Lago. That's one. Secondly, we know from the backstory that it was over a $40 million land deal.
Right.
And that on the courthouse steps when they were bidding it up, he was pissed at Epstein for making him bid up the land purchase. That's second.
No,
Third,
it was Epstein who was angry at Donald because Epstein is the one
All
who
right.
brought him to the house because Epstein wanted to buy it. In fact, that house was originally owned by the same guy, Les Wexner, that gave him that $60 million townhouse for $1.
Right. Right. It was previously owned by another guy who was
That's right. Who lost it?
Right, who lost it. So the other thing that's problematic in that comment is, so your boss knew he was a pedophile, and what did he do about it? Did he go to the authorities? Did he report him? Or did he leave him on the streets to prey on girls? That doesn't help them in the story, in the narrative. The way I read it, you can tell your audience how you read it. The way I read it about I was never a member, girls, and then Ghislaine Maxwell to stop, is that Ghislaine Maxwell was using Mar-a-Lago as a predator hunting ground to find young girls who were vulnerable, girls, to bring back to Epstein. So I don't know how else you could read it.
Well, you don't really know what is. We can.
What I would argue.
We can make an argument either way, but certainly somebody can always say, stop charging, fucking Mar-a-Lago burgers, on Jeffrey's account. He doesn't have one anymore. I mean, it could be a million different things. I will tell you, I heard from a conspiracy theorist. It's a conspiracy theorist.
I love the warning label.
Right. They think that the reason that Trump doesn't want the files released is not because it was a sexual sort of thing, but rather because Donald was an FBI informant for years.
I've heard this. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that it really goes back many, many years, which is how he was successful in pulling off a lot of bullshit and doing a lot of things that he never was held accountable for, that somebody else would have been. And again, it's almost like the Whitey Bulger story, what's it called, like White Mass, where he was able to basically deal drugs in front of police officers, and they knew they couldn't touch him because he was a well-known and an important FBI informant. That's one conspiracy. There's, of course, many more.
Yeah, let me go back for a minute because I have the email in front of me. This was between Michael Wolff, who's now.
By the way, can I just say one more thing about Michael Wolff?
Of course.
Really disappointed in that email where he's almost acting as an advisor, a legal advisor. Hey, you could use this information as a benefit to yourself, PR-wise, or for a reduced kind of sentence, or you can use it if Trump becomes president as almost like a chit, right? As a debt that he would owe you. But I don't know. I felt because I've had him on this Mea Culpa podcast twice. I've had him on my Substacks. I felt a little betrayed.
I mean, for me, it just showed how much Donald Trump feared the blackmail and the extortion. What did Epstein have on Donald Trump? And all for me, it was is Michael Wolff commenting on knowing through being with Epstein how much he had. And Michael's been very public about all the stuff that he's seen. Is he coaching him in PR? Probably, yes. Did it cross the line and make you uncomfortable and me uncomfortable?
It did.
Yeah. It did. But at the end, it also shows how much Epstein had over Donald Trump and how much Donald Trump should have feared. Here's the email you and I were talking about in the middle a minute ago. Victim's name blacked out. This is back with Michael Wolff in 2019. Something about Mar-a-Lago. Another blackout. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member. Ever. Never a member of Mar-a-Lago. Ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. That's girls and stop, not charging up hamburgers at the grill.
Yeah. Well, like I said, anybody can make an argument depending upon which side of the aisle. I want all the files. I want the background. I want the specifics. I want to know exactly what the what really means. But let me ask you this, because we are right now, based upon like what you and I are doing right now, just engaging in a conversation about possibilities. We are literally watching a political earthquake where Trump is facing the largest Republican rebellion so far of his presidency. People like Rand Paul, what's his name? Johnson, Mike Lee, even Marco Rubio, publicly demanding the full release of the Epstein file. How unprecedented is this level of intra-party mutiny?
I mean, if we're doing our jobs, both here on Mea Culpa on the MeidasTouch network, then we are trying to find the points of division which should naturally cleave within the Republican Party, which has not been completely taken over by MAGA. MAGA is running the show, but there are certainly what you and I used to refer to as country club Republicans who have never been totally comfortable or comfortable at all with Donald Trump. And on major issues like this child sex trafficking, lines are being drawn, right? We've seen it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I saw her interview on The View. I was like, who is this person?
Right?
Who,
she's now the North Star of the Republican Party?
She's saying some crazy shit out loud that she thinks. It also shows that she thinks there is a path away from Donald Trump and yet have her own political survival, which is to your point. Are there ways now to cannibalize this resistance within the Trump, within the MAGA world to our benefit? And there seems to be some issues that people just won't support Trump on. I see him as losing his grip on power. The economy is doing that. The heartlessness around the shutdown and the SNAP benefits. I mean, you can say what you want about Americans and our political divide, but we want a president with a heart. And if we find that he doesn't have one, and he's abusing the most underprivileged and fragile in our society, that doesn't play well in red states either.
You know why? Because they are the recipients of SNAP benefits as well. They are the same recipients as the Democrats. You know, folks, when I first got my hands on the iRestore Elite, the big one, the fancy one, I thought, great. Now I'm wearing a glowing red space helmet. I mean, I looked like I was auditioning for the world's saddest Daft Punk tribute band. But let me tell you something. This thing, it's comfortable. You put it on your head, you hit the button, and suddenly you've got 500 lights doing more for your scalp than my lawyer ever did for my career. I mean, I wear mine while I'm answering emails, drinking coffee, plotting revenge, whatever. And here's the shocker. My hair, it actually starting to look fuller. I mean, even my wife said, Michael, you're finally reversing something for once. I mean, that's true love, right? Now, I've tried other LED masks in the past. Most of them felt like strapping a hot lunch tray to my face. But iRestore, it's lightweight, easy. There's no drama. And when you pair the Elite with the Revive Plus Max Growth Kit, that shampoo, conditioner, serum, the whole Avengers cast of hair products, it's like your follicles enter witness protection and come back with a new identity. It's stronger, thicker, it's ready to testify. Gummies, they're delicious. I mean, dangerous. I ate 2 and I had to stop myself from tearing through the rest like they were Halloween candy. And look, the holidays are here. And you're going to be in photos. You're going to see relatives who still think that you peaked in 1998. So why not show up with better hair than half the people who used to judge you? And plus, this thing is packed with serious science. No joke. Triple wavelength tech, wider beam coverage, all engineered to wake up those lazy follicles and send them back to work. Shutdown's over. And the best part, there's the 12-month money-back guarantee. Let me say that again, a 12-month money-back guarantee. And if your hair doesn't start making a comeback tour, you get your money back with no weird questions. So here's the deal. Huge Black Friday savings all month long, and you get an exclusive discount when you use my code Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, at iRestore.com. That's again, code Cohen, C-O-H-E-N, at iRestore, iRestore.com. Support the show, support your hair, and please tell them that I sent you so they don't think I wore this glowing helmet for nothing. You ever tried launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you. It's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. I mean, when I started Mea Culpa, I thought to myself, come on, how hard can this be? Well, script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I felt like I was decoding the damn Matrix. If only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe. responsible for a whopping 10%. You hear me? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's a fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground. Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. And AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your product descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you actually are. I mean, not naming names or anything, right? I mean, need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew that you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/Cohen. So if you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify and sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Cohen. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/Cohen. One more time, that's shopify.com/Cohen. So let me then ask you this, because then take all that, the cherry on the top of this insanity sundae is Marjorie Taylor Greene and the MAGA base literally now openly blasting. They're blasting Trump for protecting elites by delaying the rest of the Epstein documents. So I want to ask you, what do you make of the, let's just call it the Frankenstein mob, accusing their creator of going soft? And when I say soft, I'm not talking about in bed like Stormy said. I'm talking about going soft in terms of on the protecting of the elites.
Yeah. Look, I think they picked up pitchforks and torches. They feel they have a political lane to occupy. Nancy Mace, left that meeting with the survivors in tears. Many of them say they were subject of sexual abuse themselves. I'm not outing anybody. This is them personally, their personal stories they've told. Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene have all said they were on the receiving end of sexual abuse. So they take this thing seriously. Donald Trump has once again is clueless to the shifting narrative underneath his own feet. See, what got him, as you know, and I know well, what got him elected, the governing in poetry, the campaigning in poetry, but having to govern in prose is biting him in the ass. He feels like, oh, well, I'm the same guy, I'm the crypto guy, I'm the golden bathroom guy, I'm the ballroom guy, everybody loves me. They don't. Not when 10 months of the Trump economy has ripped away people's dignity and crushed their hopes and dreams. And him keeps saying, it's great, it's the greatest economy in the world. See, he's got a Biden problem, because Biden also kept telling people, even though the numbers showed it should be a better economy for people, we knew what we were paying for clothing and shelter and housing and food. And we're like, what's this guy smoking that he thinks the economy is good? And now the economy is worse than what Biden. And it was turning in a really great direction right before the election. So you've got Donald Trump missing all of that, overplaying his hand during the shutdown, where he said, here's a great idea. I'll wreck the economy even more while I golf at Mar-a-Lago. See, that didn't go over well with the American people. We see it in the polling and in the election night last Tuesday.
I mean, not only is he out there playing golf, not only is he there hosting parties, right? Lavish parties.
Great Gatsby parties.
He's also at the same time pardoning people who do not deserve pardons, right? Including folks like George Santos and others. This is the problem. What he's doing, he's behaving in a way that even his own base cannot stomach. But here comes the classic Trump reflex. Instead of being transparent, what does he do? He's ordering Attorney General Pam Bondi to go out there and to investigate Democrats like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. You got Bill Richardson, Ehud Barak, Leon Black. I mean, he's got a whole slew of them that he wants to. You have what's his name from LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, all of whom appear in portions of the Epstein file. Is this law enforcement, or do you think this is political smokescreen? Well, both.
Listen, I think that, I just did a report about him using the Southern District of Florida's prosecutor there, who's a meat puppet that they've selected on purpose in order to go after his political enemies. He's getting Mike Davis, one of these right wingers that I thought was going to be the attorney general, God help us. A Laura Loomer type is pushing Trump to use the Southern District of Florida and get everything in front of Judge Aileen Cannon, including using grand juries in Fort Pierce to go after Barack Obama and others. Brennan, former CIA director, has already said that he got a subpoena for things that happened in 2016. Now, let me just put a legal spin on this. There's only one crime that has no statute of limitations that would be in play here: treason.
And murder.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about for
sure
political purposes, treason. The rest have a 5-year statute of limitations. So Donald Trump is going to have a meat puppet who and I did a report on this guy, who was written up for incompetency when he was an assistant U.S. attorney in Miami. He's now heading the office. They're going to have him go after people for treason in order to give Donald Trump political cover. I mean, again, federal judges in the Southern District of Florida, hopefully not named Aileen Cannon, are going to have to stand up and protect our democracy.
Sure. So let's turn around and let's just be crystal clear about something. Let's assume that he gets it before Judge Cannon. Let's assume it. And let's assume that Barack Obama is certainly not going to roll over. He's not going to ask to get his belly rubbed and bend a knee. He'll fight it out. Do you really think that there's 12 jurors that would ultimately hold Barack Obama accountable for treason simply because Trump says so or because Pam Bondi says so? It'll be the biggest waste of taxpayer dollars in any case that I could. He came after me in the Southern District, the federal district, Southern District of Miami. I happen to have gotten a great judge.
I know the judge well.
By the spinning of the wheel. And the only bad thing is that the judge took too long. He should have issued the decision immediately, which would have dismissed the case and I wouldn't have to be bothered. But then again, let's go back to statute of limitations. The argument goes back to even 2007.
Yours were like 10 years old.
You're talking about 10 years, just about 8, 9, 10 years. The statute of limitations is over 2+ years on any charge that he wanted, but it still costs you money. Yeah. That's the worst part. But Popok, you've said before that Trump governs through projection. How much do you think this move is Trump trying to shift the attention from the unanswered questions about his own relationship, if any, with Epstein, and especially Epstein's presence at Mar-a-Lago in the late 90s?
Yeah, I think I think there's a couple of things going on. One, Donald Trump needs to be the great distractor and try to say he operates by whataboutism. I might have done the bad things, but what about these guys? And try to get the media horde to go in that direction to give him some political currency and mileage out of that. He's also on a clock. Let's be frank. He's on a clock, both biological and political. And the way he operates, for me, I've called him the incredible shrinking president. He's about 3 feet tall, 2 feet tall at this point. He operates like somebody that knows he's on a short time horizon, which could clock out at the midterms. He's trying to do maximum damage and destruction with a checklist of his own making, which is, I want to make several $1 billion for my friends and family before I leave. So far, check. I want to avoid criminal liability for myself and my friends. That's where pardons and the immunity decision come in. check, and I want to retaliate and make people's lives miserable and get my pound of flesh for people like Letitia James and James Comey and the intelligence community and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And I want to do all that for as long as I have political relevancy. He's also knows he's going to be lame duck. He fears, and I think it's a real fear. He's going to be lame duck less than a year from now. If in order to give himself political capital of any kind, which is now dwindling in his grip on power also, he's got to say stupid shit out loud, like, I'm going to be a president for a third term, and look at all these guys. And but it's not working. Look, it's like a magician where everybody in the audience is starting to boo and throw lettuce and cabbage, who realized that the woman's not being sawed in half. That he's not this, the card trick's not working any longer. Look at the polling numbers. They're the worst we've ever seen in modern history. And if you think, well, he always does better than his poll numbers. He didn't on election night last week. He hasn't in every major special election.
Yeah. There's a reason why I turn around and I talk about especially Epstein's presence at Mar-a-Lago, their relationship in the late 80s and all the way through the late 90s, including into the 2000s. I get more stupid people turning around and saying, oh, Michael Cohen was involved in trying to pay off this individual when they were a child. I want to be clear to people. And I say this all the time. In 1988, when I think two of the people that are in that list that are constantly going around, I was enjoying my fraternity prom in my senior year of college. I certainly wasn't paying off people for Donald Trump. I didn't know I knew who Donald was, obviously, as a New Yorker, but I didn't have a relationship, certainly, to him. I didn't come into his orbit into late 2005, but did not become an employee until 2007. For whatever the reason is, people can't get that through their head. And I wish they would, because we constantly, you and I, on our different programs, Legal AF, MeidasTouch Network, Political Beatdown, here on Mea Culpa, we talk a lot about the legal boomerangs, right? Such as, Trump's risks. One of which is opening up this Pandora's box by weaponizing investigations into these Democrats that I was just talking about. Because given that Pam Bondi will now have to explain at some point in time, especially if you're right and we're successful in the midterms, where at least the House turns Democrat, she will have to explain to a committee why the DOJ never examined Trump's own connection to Jeffrey Epstein and only these folks.
Yeah. I mean, in your question is your answer.
Well, yeah. What's your answer? I know my answer.
What's your answer?
My answer is she's going to get dragged before a committee.
Yeah. And
she is going to have to explain why are you investigating Barack Obama or Reid Hoffman or JP Morgan Chase? What about the Trump organization?
What about you, Mr. Cohen? Right? Mr. Cohen, you worked for Donald Trump. You were once in a photo with him. And so you have the temerity to challenge my ethics. I could do Pam Bondi for you right now.
Yeah,
see, but that doesn't help. That is the thing that's lost on the Trump administration is the thing that satisfies your old client and makes him happy and giddy at day and high-fiving whoever's in his inner circle, Stephen Miller or whoever's sitting there. When Pam Bondi or Kash Patel look ridiculous in front of the American people, is that this does not cover them with any glory. When Pam Bondi obviously is never, other than her confirmation hearing, is never going to answer a straight question posed to her by a Democrat in their oversight capacity ever again. It's not going to change. She did not learn from the bad press that you and I and others gave her from her last appearance that she needs to do better at the next one, like a debate. You know, when the president's like crap the bed during one of the debates, and they go, oh, like Obama was listless during one, and Al Gore needs to do it. She's not going to F and learn from that. She's going to do these. And I asked, by the way, Blumenthal Senator Blumenthal, who came on the show about a week after, about his back and forth with her. I said, were you prepared for her? I mean, I know you didn't go first, but were you prepared for her to just go after you instead of answering a question? He goes, yeah, we quickly pivoted. We figured out she was going to come in with the palm card for each of us. But how do you think, Michael, this is to you, but again, how, you think that played well in front of the American people?
So the answer is it did, to their base. They were extremely happy, but it's big enough that he won the election. But here's the problem.
He didn't win the election with the base.
I mean, with enough people, he certainly won the election. So those folks that voted for him like the fact that his people are fighting for him. However, there's a big difference when it comes to this Epstein bullshit. There's a big difference because Republicans will ask the same question as Democrats. Let me tell you, they say that there's 100 Republicans now that are calling for the release of the Epstein file. So if you now are sitting on one of those committees,
in the House,
rest assured, in between the House and the Senate, in total, that's what I read.
We'll know in a month.
That's for sure. But imagine if that's true. Imagine if it's true. And it's the reason why Democrats are calling for the vote and not just accepting what MAGA Mike Johnson wants, which is, okay, fine, we're going to acknowledge it and then bring it to the floor without taking a vote. Why are the Democrats doing it? Because, motherfucker, we want to know. We want to know which asshole is willing to say no to the release of the file and not allow them to escape as these midterms are coming. That's why Mike Johnson, with his pink cheeks and his mascara, are sitting there and turning around and playing this game. All right? They can't bullshit the American people anymore. There's too many of us out there that are feeding truth to power, like you.
Yeah, look, this is one of the reasons I think you and I get up in the morning and start our day. See, the difference between us and the Trump administration or anybody in it is that you and I and others on the MeidasTouch network, I just had Adam Mockler on, who you've had him on as well. The first thing I think about, besides my family, the second thing I think about is what we can do to bring truth to each other first and then bring truth to power. What is the new information I need to curate for my audience, your audience, that they need to know in order to take to the streets and debate and understand the issues and without smoke or sunshine? The first thing the Trump administration thinks about in the morning, let's be honest, is their portfolio. And second, how they can screw the American people and those that they consider beneath them, which is the majority of America who aren't millionaires and billionaires. That does not make for honest service. That does not make for doing right by the people in the people's house for which you were elected. That sets you off automatically in the wrong direction.
And look, the one thing that you're now getting, my Mea Culpa followers, obviously, you know my relationship to Trump and to the family. You just may not be aware that Michael Popok used to be involved and worked with Howard Lutnick.
Did you just out me?
I just did. I outed you so that you actually know exactly what he wakes up and looks at. How did the market do yesterday? How much am I up? How much am I down? And is today going to be a day that I need to speak to Sachs to find out what's happening with Bitcoin that I can tell my family and that they can go ahead and make sure that they get the right, the right algorithm going.
I just did a hot take today about Bloomberg reporting that Cantor Fitzgerald, the family office for Howard Lutnick, run by his two sons, which I refer to as, I've never knew a family that had two Fredos, are running in the company. It's up 25%, their best year ever. And they go, it's just totally coincidental that our father's the commerce secretary and we get to hang out with everybody in the White House and look how much money we're making. Like, does anybody believe that?
You ever hit that point where your body starts sending error messages that your doctor can't translate? Aches, fatigue, brain fog. And the guy just shrugs and says, you're getting older. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Obvious. I mean, real insight there. And that's when I found superpower. And I'll tell you, it's the first time I felt like someone actually gave me the full picture. They test over 100 biomarkers, heart, liver, thyroid, hormones, vitamins, even toxins. And they break it all down for you in plain English. Then they build you a personalized plan, supplements, nutrition, lifestyle tweaks, and they even tell you your true biological age. I mean, to be honest, I was relieved mine didn't come back as ancient. Now, let me be clear. It's proactive health, not the usual guessing game. And the best part, you track your results over time, like watching your health improve instead of waiting for it to fall apart. Now, usually this level of testing runs $499, but right now, Superpower's offering the whole experience for $199. And I'm telling you, it's worth it just to finally know what's going on inside your own body. So head right now to superpower.com to learn more and to lock in that $199 price while it lasts. That's superpower.com, superpower.com. Go sign up, find out what your body's really saying, and tell them that Mea Culpa sent you. Your biology, decoded. It's your superpower. You know, when I think back on my own life, there were days when I felt like trouble was following me, like it had me on GPS. And that's exactly what debt feels like. It doesn't show up with sirens blaring. It sneaks up on you. A bill here, a fee there, a number you swear was smaller last month, and then suddenly, boom. You're wondering why your account looks like it entered witness protection without you. At first, the clues don't connect, but step back, and the pattern? Crystal clear. Credit card debt is the suspect hiding in plain sight. It follows you like a shadow, and just when you think that you're finally safe, again, it strikes. Locked accounts, vanishing paychecks, futures rearranged without your permission. PDS debt has helped hundreds of thousands escape that mess. And if they can help them, they can help you too. Whether it's credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, especially medical bills, whatever financial chaos is keeping you up at night, PDS debt actually listens. They go beyond the spreadsheet. They look at your specific situation and create a personalized plan that fits your life. No minimum credit score, no judgment, just a real strategy to help you save more, to pay it down faster, and to finally put money back where it belongs, your pocket. And look, PDS, it's A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of 5-star reviews, 5 stars on Trustpilot. I mean, people swear by them for a reason. They get results. I mean, if I had needed this kind of help back in the day, this is exactly who I would have called. So don't wait for debt to make its next move. You're 30 seconds away from getting ahead of it. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/Cohen. That's P like Peter, D like David, S like Sam, debt, DEBT.com/Cohen. One more time, pdsdebt.com/Cohen. Go there now.
You got the report that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, is evading taxes. He set up offshore accounts to avoid Medicare and Social Security taxes for his companies. That's in the New York Times. You got Bloomberg reporting about all the money that Cantor Fitzgerald's making while their daddy is in the inner circle of the White House. Look, I'm not worried.
Or the amount of money that the Trump organization has taken in since Donald became president. How about not? You know, I've heard some people, Donald Trump has increased his net worth by $3 billion. Fuck you, you're wrong. It's $10 billion. Add this shit up. It's $10 billion at least. Just in
crypto.
Truth Social. Just Truth Social is over $4 billion based upon the number of shares that he owns. His crypto, 3 here, 2 here. I'm telling you. And then all the deals that he has going on, all of the money. Jared Kushner with his $2+ billion in a fund that has yet to invest a single dollar.
But Michael, you're not being fair. What are you doing with your Doge dividend check? What are you doing with your healthcare dividend check? What are you doing with your tariff return check? What are you doing with it?
You mean with the $2,000 I'm supposed to one day, hopefully, maybe get
because
the $28 trillion that's sitting on the tariff shelf? That's one big fucking shelf to have $28 trillion.
Every time he's in trouble, he waves around a phony check like he's Ed McMahon at your door with the sweepstakes. You know, we're not getting it.
Take it easy. I represented Ed McMahon.
Oh, I like it. I'm not tying Ed McMahon to the Epstein scandal. I'm just mentioning him.
Okay, Johnny. Meanwhile, let me ask you this, because Pam Bondi and Dear Donald are escalating this stupidity even further. They've now announced that they're intending to sue California over Proposition 50, about the redistricting map.
They already have. They've entered the case.
They've entered, right. That now, think about this. Gavin Newsom put out Proposition 50. The people of California voted on it with an overwhelming 64% approval for Prop 50 to redistrict the state. They are now suing. However, you know who they're not suing? They're not suing Texas. They're not suing, Missouri? They're not suing any of the other states that are actually doing this, only California. So how blatant would you say is this selective enforcement?
Well, let's just call it out right now. Harmeet Dillon, who's the head of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, if you can call it that, because nothing really is left of it. It's in shambles. Had a law firm. The law firm is called the law firm of Harmeet Dillon, Dillon Law. Dillon Law brought the original lawsuit by a young member of the House in California to challenge Prop 50 a day after the election, after 67% or 65% of the electorate
64.
Voted for the new maps. He then, the representative then files the suit. Civil Rights Division, run by Harmeet Dillon, filed a motion to intervene in a case brought by her old law firm. What is that? Does that tell you everything you need to know about the scandal-ridden Department of Justice under Donald Trump?
Yeah. I mean, so then zoom out for a quick moment here. What constitutional precedent does it actually set when a sitting president of the United States uses the DOJ to selectively punish blue states while literally protecting red states that are doing the same exact thing, but worse? You see, like, for example, Texas, Governor Abbott, he didn't bring the vote to the people. He went ahead and he made the decision himself. They pushed it through. California has a different scenario. So Gavin Newsom did it appropriately. He brought it to the people who voted on it. And again, 64% said, yeah, this is what we want to do. Power of the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, the precedent here, everything with Trump's name on it at the Supreme Court level has been a terrible set of precedents. We have to look to the circuit courts to kind of do justice here, because because the Supreme Court doesn't have their back. We're going to see what they're going to do next about the National Guard. Briefing is in now about the National Guard and its use in Chicago, but it has ramifications around the country as the Supreme Court finally weighs in about the militarization of the state militia. The fact that nobody at the Supreme Court level is willing to call out this vindictive retaliation against the blue states and the blue cities, masquerading as objective policy or war power or foreign affairs power of a president, is really galling. And
you know when they will, Popok? You know when they will? When he turns on them. Then all of a sudden, it's like that old expression, right? First, they went after the socialists. I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't say anything, and so on, right? It's the same thing. These Supreme Court assholes, literally assholes, who turn around and they're like, well, they're not coming after me. What do you think's going to happen when
the tariffs get pulled down?
Absolutely. What's going to happen when hypothetically he, I don't know, takes full control over government? So I don't even need a Supreme Court anymore. I am the Supreme Court. I'm the king. I'm the queen. I'm the jester. I'm the nobility. I am it all. I don't need a Supreme Court.
Well, during the tariff argument, I said if I were an advocate before, and I've argued at appellate courts, just not at the Supreme Court level, U.S. Supreme Court level, I would have said to them when we were talking about tariffs, let's just take it out of the world of Article 1, tariffs and taxing, and Article 2, foreign affairs, and let's turn it to Article 3, the courts. And I would have gestured to them. Would it be okay for the president, under foreign affairs power of Article 2, to declare that he needs a separate parallel set of courts to deal with economic issues on an international stage, taking away power that's non-delegable from Article 3 judges that you head. Is that okay? And I would just sit back and let the feeding frenzy begin.
Yeah.
And you know what they'd say? Oh, no, that's different. We're Article. Well, how is it different? If Congress, how can you take a core constitutional power away from Congress and have it ripped away and given to the president? Why can't he take your power to run courts?
True. So I want to shift for a moment because we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to shift to Virginia, the state of Virginia. If Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former lawyer, actually, stays and remains Attorney General, what does it mean for her promised crusade against Comey and others over their supposed, misconduct?
Wait, your question is if she stays in or she's bounced?
Yes,
Judge
if
Curry?
She stays in.
Oh, if Curry keeps her?
Yes.
I don't see that happening, but okay. Well, I mean, it could. Anything's possible. I just don't think All right, so let's back up. There was a hearing in Alexandria, Virginia, presided over by Judge Curry, sitting by designation from South Carolina. The issue was Letitia James and James Comey's consolidated motion to bounce Lindsay Halligan as illegally appointed under both the Constitution and under a statute. The way that hearing went, and I had Adam Glassfeld from All Rise News in there, and he was outside the courtroom doing reporting for me, I would be shocked if Judge Curry kept Lindsay Halligan in. Every judge that's ever looked at this issue, it has bounced the Trump appointee as being illegally appointed. And I don't think she's going to be any different. The only thing I think she's struggling with is what does she do with the indictment? Does she kick the indictment because of Lindsay Halligan's involvement? I think that's a harder call for her. I think the call of whether Section 546 was violated by the second interim U.S. attorney being appointed for Eastern District when you can only appoint one, I don't think that's a hard call. If she somehow dodges the bullet that I've just described and she stays in, what's your fear? She's going to become more vindictive? They're already vindictive.
No, not more vindictive. I just think that the prosecution is going to become more vindictive, meaning against Comey and Tish James and so on. But compare this then to what happened with Alina Habba.
So, okay, well, it's allegedly a different statute. However, I think the result ends up being the same place. One is the interim U.S. attorney. One is the acting U.S. attorney. One's under Section 546. The other is under another statute. However, that statute was also violated. That statute is, she was the number 2, and then she was elevated to the number 1. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals 3-judge panel held their oral argument a month ago. We're just waiting on the decision. I would be shocked there if the Third Circuit didn't support the lower court judge who said Alina Habba was illegally appointed. Now, that's not going to help the guy that brought the case, this drug dealer, indicted drug smuggler, gun smuggler. I don't think he's getting his indictment kicked. But I'll come back on with you. I'd be shocked if the Third Circuit keeps Alina Habba in. I think she's out. And I think then Trump's going to have to take this to the United States Supreme Court. There is, though, I want to manage expectations. There is a separation of powers problem here, which the Supreme Court may end up weighing on. And that is this. As much as we don't like it, the prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, are under the executive branch. Some people from foreign countries are like, aren't they with the judicial branch? No, they're in the executive branch. So it is a little weird that Congress had in their statute that if the president doesn't get around to getting a confirmed pick for the U.S. attorney, the remedy is that the judges, Article 3 judges, pick the executive branch prosecutor. See, that's a little weird. That's never been litigated. But you could just see the MAGA 6 going, that's a violation of the separation of powers. You can see it coming.
And make it real easy. So look, final question, because the hour goes by, unfortunately. Got about 1,000 more questions for you. But knowing Trump like we do, you think he's still convinced that he can con his way through all of this, whether it's leaning on Pam Bondi, weaponizing folks like Halligan, manipulating these releases, skating past accountability on Epstein at least one more time?
You mean?
Or do you think he knows? Or do you think he knows that his goose is cooked?
I think he knows his goose is cooked. I think he's operating, as I said earlier. I think he's operating like a person who knows he's on borrowed time, and he knows it's almost like it's almost like somebody that got a diagnosis from a doctor telling him he's only got a year to live. I think he thinks he's got a very, very short amount of time to continue to implement his and hope that if he slows down the bad things like the Epstein scandal and that the economy somehow comes roaring back 6 months from now from where it is right now, that the American people feel it, they forget about him punishing poor people, they forget about the Epstein scandal, and somehow because of the way they're going to change the maps, there's enough new Republican seats created, and we're waiting on the Supreme Court ruling, which is not going to be favorable for the Democrats on the Voting Rights Act. If he gets all that scramble, he thinks he can, part of him, maybe 20, 30% thinks he can win the midterms. But if he doesn't, he's effed, because the House and the Senate will be returned to the Democrats, which will spend the rest of the next 2 years holding him accountable and driving him crazy, and maybe even, not maybe, certainly impeaching him.
Well, Michael Popok, thank you, my friend. You make us smarter. You make me smarter. Hope to see you soon.
You will.
I'm not sure. As it relates to this Supreme Court. And that's what makes me nervous. It's why everybody, please follow Michael Popok, follow Legal AF. Make sure that you join our community, our MeidasTouch network community, for the sole purpose of ensuring that our 2026 midterm elections go exactly the way we need them to.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, my brother.
You too.